Hey everybody, Taylor Lyles with the Greenville Home Builders Association, and this is the Think Big podcast. Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to the Think Big podcast. I am your host, Taylor Lyles, Chief Executive Officer of the Home Builders Association. I'm super excited to have one of our trusted partners of the association, somebody that's truly brought value to you and your industry. Excited to kind of dig into it. Jason, introduce yourself to the world.
Yeah, Jason Zacher. I'm the founder of Bridge Public Strategy Group here in Greenville. I solve complex political problems for businesses. So whether that's business associations, nonprofits, et cetera, I work with a lot of different folks. And been in business for about a year with this company. I did 10 years as vice president of the Greenville Chamber before that. Worked at the State House for 10 years before that, and then was a newspaper reporter before that. So I've seen politics from every angle, except the elected angle. I will not be doing that anytime soon. But from all these other angles, you know, I've witnessed local and state politics in this state and in Greenville County since 1999.
Fantastic. So, kind of diving straight in from a political standpoint, just coming off of elections, we had a bunch of contested races, a bunch of just different things going on that kind of made the water a little murky in certain races. I know that from a House standpoint, we had some pretty good flips. I know that there were some trial attorneys that did not get reelected from the state standpoint. Some new, fresh faces. Timmons being reelected. Sherry Biggs getting elected for Jeff Duncan's seat. I think she's going to be a huge advocate for us. But anything you want to chat about, other like go deeper on?
How long you got? Let's start at the top level and come back down. So we'll start at the federal level. You red wave across the country a few weeks ago. And what does that mean? I don't think we know yet, right? Certainly we've started to see President Trump and some of these cabinet appointments already or cabinet nominations. The Republicans took the Senate, for example. So we know that was a major flip. The House looks like it's going to be kind of like it was before. Republicans have a very narrow majority. What does that mean? What can they do? Well, they couldn't do a whole lot the last 2 years when they had the majority. Maybe having Trump in the White House might put a little more discipline on them, a little more pressure to get things done. You never know. What you do see, though, when you get Republican or Democrat president, Senate, and House, sometimes there's a lot of overreach and then a correction 2 years later when the midterms come around. You saw that in 2008 when Obama was elected and then the Republicans swept in 2010. You saw that in 1992 with Bill Clinton. You saw it in 2004 with George W. Bush. So these kind of things happen. It creates a little uncertainty for business because it's hard to say down the line what that means. You're going to could you have a bunch of tariffs put in place on January 30th? It's possible. What does that mean for builders? I don't know. We'll see what happens. Last time it was on all kinds of appliances and all these things that came from China, which is part of the supply chain. Anyway, we don't know yet where that is. It's all been a lot of bluster. It's not really policy yet. So there'll be a lot of change. Locally, I think we know William Timmons. He's a known quantity for everybody around here. Sherry Biggs is not a known quantity, but a lot of the people behind her were Jeff Duncan's people. So you're looking, she hasn't made staff announcements yet that I've seen as we record this. But a lot of the folks that were helping her help Duncan, a lot of that staff is expected to possibly stay on. So again, known quantities throughout the Upstate, people that we know and we know how to deal with.
Yep. So touching on the presidential, it was interesting watching it. The largest red wave in 30 plus years, like back to Reagan's time frame. That was the last time you truly saw the country flip majority Republican. I think that it definitely showed that people are wanting a change. So I think that change is good, but I agree with you. I think that January 30th, there's kind of Pandora's box mindset of what's going to come out and how's it going to roll out, what does it look like.
And that's any administration because, you campaign, and what you actually do are sometimes much different things than you campaigned on.
Yep.
Now, Donald Trump's a little different. He's much more willing to overturn the apple cart a little bit. And I think it's important, especially for Republicans, to look at the election result and say, this really wasn't that much of a mandate. Yes, you won. You won widely in the Electoral College. You took back the Senate. You took back Senate seats that I think most people were expecting them to take back, though, so I don't think that was really unexpected. And the popular vote is whittling down. California is still counting ballots, amazingly, weeks later. So now Trump is under 50% nationwide. He's going to win the popular vote, I think. I don't see how there's enough votes outstanding to do that. But, it's still only a couple percentage points. And this isn't a massive mandate like you had, say, with Reagan in 1984, where you're getting 58, 60% of the vote. You didn't get that. What I think you saw is less a vote for Republicans and more of just a vote for change. We've seen a lot of populism on the left and the right in the last 10 years, and I think folks are just tired of it. They were tired of going and seeing $5 for a dozen eggs. They're tired of the fact that 2 years ago they had their eye on this house that now they can't afford, whether that's because housing prices have gone up or 30-year mortgages at 7 point whatever percent today. And people get angry when they see that. And whoever's in power tends to lose. So, but you also saw a lot of split tickets. So look at North Carolina, where Trump won, but the Democrats held on to the state house, the governor's mansion, right? Clearly, people were splitting votes, and they were voting for one and the other. Now, Republicans had a particularly bad candidate in North Carolina, I think, running for governor. But you saw that in other places, too, where local officials either did better than Trump or, it wasn't quite the you're here, and we're voting for our people. And there's still a group in the middle that is splitting tickets and voting for the candidate. We saw that last year in the city of Greenville, where, in two citywide elections, Mayor Knox White and Councilor Dorothy Dow got almost the exact same number of votes, Republican and Democrat, in two overlapping seats. I think especially around here, you do see people tend to vote for the candidate more than for the party in a lot of cases.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we as an association try to do really well on, is truly educate our base, not on, and I've said this numerous times since Election Day, but I'm not telling you who to vote for.
Yeah.
It's more of, these are the candidates that support your industry. And it's candidates, because the HBA is nonpartisan. Listen, we will support a Democrat, we'll support a Republican, we'll support Green parties. We will support the candidate that is the best choice for that position. And I think that's kind of where even y'all were able to help add value from just information on the builder ballot. So looking at kind of bringing it a little more localized, looking at it from the state standpoint, any big changes that kind of took you off guard there?
You saw a number the Republicans picked up seats in the House and the Senate. So that will change. Governor doesn't change. McMaster was not on the ballot this year, so he will remain. Although you're starting to see some of his staff peel off now that he's only have 2 years left, so they're looking for other jobs. You saw a couple key staffers leave in the last 6 months or so, which will be interesting to see how he fills those. But the Senate's going to be really interesting this year. You saw Gerald Malloy lose. Gerald Malloy was a powerful Democrat, trial lawyer from Darlington, Hartsville. His district was in Florence County and a lot of that PD area. He was a big roadblock for a lot of business legislation in the Senate. And getting him to even explain why he opposed things was sometimes almost impossible. That loss for the Democrats really, I think, could open things up in the Senate a lot for business legislation. Whether that's the joint and several liability issue that I know business associations all over the state have been working on. There's a lot of things like that I think it'll be easier to get through. I'm not saying it will get through.
Yep.
But some of these things will become a lot easier. So that's a big change. The other thing that you're going to see is with the Republicans holding a supermajority now in both House and the Senate, you don't have to worry about like North Carolina where a Democratic governor can veto things. Supermajority is just going to override it. They're really not going to override what McMaster's doing. I think they work pretty well together. But what I think you'll start seeing is there are a number of conservative issues and business issues of, whether that's the tort reform issue, whether that it would be tax reform, things like that, that have always been watered down a little bit, that it's going to be hard for the leadership to, the leadership's going to have a lot more free reign to do what they need to do. It's going to be, they don't have to compromise with the Democrats in the Senate anymore.
Yep.
There's just not enough of them left to do that. House is a little bit different. They'll still do that on committees, and they still work pretty well together, bipartisan-wise, on these committees. But when you get to these supermajorities, whether that's I think it's 88 in the House and 34 in the Senate, 35 in the Senate, you get to there's a lot of momentum from these folks who say, okay, this is in the Republican platform. This is something we all campaigned on. This is what the Republican primary voters are telling us. We've got to get these things done. And they're not going to be able to blame the Democrats for blocking things anymore.
Correct. I think one big thing from the association standpoint, you touched on it, joint and several liability, tort reform, getting into rollback taxes from a builder standpoint or a landowner standpoint, even into our residential builder's license bill that's kind of got bogged down the past 2 years. I think with this shift, I truly think it gets passed. And it adds more protection for the builder side, it adds more protection from the consumer side, but it also brings back continuing education, which is going to be huge for the builders in the market just because they're sitting there. The state of South Carolina doesn't require continuing ed on a builder standpoint. Well, if we can get that back in, it's voluntary. It's master builder certification, so it's a great opportunity for them to continue growing, learning. And then we have another barrier in place, just like approved professional builder program that we have through the HBA of Greenville, where they're 100% vetted, qualified, licensed, bonded, and insured builders. It's one more layer to protect that end user, but also protect the builder. So I'm excited for next year. I know that the state's got a pretty big legislative agenda next year. Tying up some loose ends, making some adjustments, but I think it's going to be big. But I do think having that supermajority, you are 100% right.
Let me press pause on that for 1 second and tell you that it's even if you have a supermajority that you think is going to be really strong for the home builders in the State House, be very careful with that and don't get cocky about it. Everyone still has to show up. You still got to call. You still got to get engaged. Because there is still a very strong populist sentiment. This will be a transition to local, where it's anti-growth. It's no more. We don't want any more development. We want to close the door. That could be Greenville. That could be Rock Hill. That could be Horry County. That could be a lot of these places that are electing these conservative Republicans and flipping these seats that are also telling them, well, you don't make it easier for that kind of thing, right? So you've got to, the business community in broad strokes, whether that's at the Chamber of Commerce, the Realtors Association, homeowners, it tries to move roughly in the center, maybe right of center on a lot of things. But a lot of these folks are over here, and that's who is voting in primaries and everything. And a lot of these folks are angry, and I think it's very important that the numbers are on the side of the business community, the home builders now. But I think it's really important for anyone listening to this, stay engaged. This is not a done deal.
Do not
You
sleep.
still need to call. When Taylor Lyles sends you the e-blast that you've got to make a phone call, we need those phone calls still because you've got to stay engaged and do that because the other side is definitely engaged.
That is something that I'm glad that you brought up because I think we as an association and you as one of our trusted partners, we have a voice that can only go so far. But when a council member, a House member, a Senate member, even a congressional member, when you have a membership of over 1,000 members and 10% of them make phone calls, we are 10 times more impactful because now it's a voice of 100 people. It's kind of the squeaky wheel concept.
Well, I used to make this. This is a stock line I use when I speak to groups, and when I was representing all the chambers in 8 counties here in the Upstate, there were about 8,000 businesses that I represented at the time, and 300,000 or 400,000 employees. And one of the things I used to say is, if I could get 10% of you to make a phone call, I could change the name of the state. I would be in meetings when I was a staffer at the State House, as we switched to when I was in that role. You'd have these meetings with the Republican caucus or whatever group was there, and there was always someone that would stand up and say, "Mr. Speaker, I've got a problem." Okay, what bill is it? Oh, it's Bill 3942. What's that? We have no idea what that is. Well, I'm getting phone calls all weekend about it. Well, how many phone calls you get? 3, 4? I mean, it doesn't take much, especially if you are constituents and you live in that community, to move the needle on these things. I mean, these folks do listen. The vast majority of them do listen. They do care. They want to hear from you. And it's one thing to hear from me or you because we're getting paid to do it.
Correct.
It's another thing when X builder calls and says, I've got a problem and this is impacting my profitability and whether I can hire more people that are your constituents. That matters a lot. And I tell people all the time, when I show up to something, they go, oh, well, the lobbyist is here. Great. And they, legislators, folks know me. I can talk to them. It's easy, but it's different when I'm doing it than when a business owner is doing it.
Correct.
Or a business manager or just the employee is calling saying, this is killing us.
Yep.
We need to get this done. I think it's really important. There is a lot of power in that phone call. And I think that too many people, kind of like my vote doesn't count, my voice doesn't count. And that's really not true at all.
Yep. I think those call to actions, and our membership does an incredible job. I think it's a huge shout out to our membership. And we get people to make those calls. And the wording's built into the call to action. These are the problems, but then they add their story into it. Like, for example, acre and a half in the county, in the unzoned areas of the county. That's been a huge impact on the building community. Not necessarily from I'm going to use the term haves, the people that can qualify for an $8-9 million house. Sure. It's the have-nots. It's the people that need that affordable, attainable housing at $185,000 or $220,000. I mean, that $185,000 is very rare. I mean, majority of the time, land's been gifted, the whole 9 yards. But keeping that price down on a house in an unzoned area, you can put a septic tank in there. I mean, it works, and they're able to deliver that product. So I know that we didn't win on that change, but at least council members knew where we stood. And they knew that they were doing something that it may not be the best outcome. It works perfect right now because they want to slow the growth. They want to kind of throttle it a little bit, but we're going to have this long-term repercussion, and we're kind of impacting a smaller minority group for who's looking for that house in the unzoned area.
Exactly. And that is something to think about too. Is when you have the story to build on that. If you have the story, it matters a lot more that Taylor's Custom Builders can come in and say, this is the problem I see it every day, versus Taylor, the CEO of the home builder, saying, I'm hearing we're doing this. Well, we all hear, I'm hearing stories all the time. And I'm like, whatever. Yep. Even though you're an authoritative voice, it matters a lot more if you have the personal story to tell. And so I, again, encourage people to make sure you stay engaged, because this is the opportunity to have make some of these changes happen, but only if you stay involved.
Yep. So kind of continuing that honing in standpoint, let's talk local, because at the end of the day, majority of the people listening to this podcast are affected builders and developers, engineers, trades in our organization that most likely are going to listen to the podcast. And it's directly affecting the local stuff, directly affects our members.
Yeah.
State's going to kind of do what state does, and they're going to work from a higher level. But let's kind of talk local. We've got some council members rolling out. Yeah. I think four.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's a big shift on county council. I'm interested to kind of see where they're going with that. Still trying to push UDO through before the end of the year. There's mumblings that it's going to be repealed in January and amended. So I think there's just some uncertainty. Yeah. So what are you seeing from your standpoint going into 2025?
I think you hit it. You said uncertainty, and I think you hit that, right? So what we lost Greenville County lost in that election, depending on what side you're on, right, was Butch Kervin, who had been here forever, and you knew what he was for, you knew what he was doing. Chris Harrison, you knew where he was, we knew what he was doing, we knew what he was for. Mike Barnes, same thing. He'd been around, we knew what he was doing. Stan Zulekis, ran for State House and lost, but he gave up his seat. So, you have four new faces, and that's a third of the council.
Yep.
Is coming on top of the new faces we had from 2 years ago. So, I mean, you're looking at 6 or 6, 7 members of council, a majority of council have served less than 1 term. That's really important, and I think that's something to think about as we move forward. Again, looking back at populist tendencies, I think a lot of people are just angry. They were angry at the tax increase last year. Yep. They're angry at I think there's a low level of anger and anxiety from just the fighting that goes on council all the time. That's left over primarily from 2018 to 2022. But I think people saw that, and people feel that, whether they put it on a survey or not. I think that's a big thing too. So again, no matter what side you're on, either you're angry that your side's getting beat, or you're angry at your side, or you're happy your side's winning, but angry that they're trying to stop you. There's a lot of anger in general in politics, period. So what do we see coming forward? Well, when you get these kind of, I would say, wave elections in a lot of cases, where now we have 6 new people on council, you wind up with folks who came in fighting, going for something, and then they get there, and sometimes the reality on the ground once they get elected is a little bit different than what they ran on. So they're talking about growth, but they were talking during the campaign on growth moratoriums, on rolling back the tax increases, rolling back, repealing the UDO, repealing all these other things, repealing. We're going to get rid of all this stuff. Okay, great. They're going to get in and realize, now what happens? Well, if we repeal that, then we've got to fix it, right? We've got to do something. We want to go ahead, we want to roll back the $7 million tax increase from 2 years ago. Great. Okay. Where are you going to find the money? Because a lot of that went to the sheriff's office, for example. And if you start cutting and you look at 70 or 80% of I think it's 55% is EMS and sheriff's office. It's hard to cut that kind of money out of the budget without impacting them.
Correct.
And so I think, again, they're great campaign promises. The reality on the ground may be different. I'm not saying they're not going to cut. I'm not saying they're not going to repeal it. But sometimes, it's easy. It's easy to yell from the cheap seats sometimes, as you see on Twitter every day in politics, versus actually being the one that has to make the decision. So we'll see what happens with that. It is a rightward shift on council, certainly. I think you look at Harrison, you look at Kervin, very moderate, conservative Republicans, but moderate by Greenville standards, I think, versus the folks McGahee coming in, or any of these the other 3. Frank Farmer's a little different, who won in that North Main Bob Jones seat, East Side seat. He campaigned very hard to the right, but in a lot of discussions, he certainly is going to be very pragmatic about his decisions. I think he wants to learn about these issues and figure out what to do. And I've had a couple meetings with him that have been great. I don't think he's going to be what I think some people who were opposing him feared he might wind up being. I don't know a better way to say that. I think all these folks will come in. They'll realize here's what actually goes on at the county. Yep. And realize that, like most local government, it's not partisan most of the time. Whether you're clearing down trees and whether you're paying to clear down trees after Hurricane Helene, that's not a partisan issue. People want the trees gone. Yep. Right? So you've got to do that. They want EMS. They want good police protection. They want smart growth and development. Now, whether that's your idea of smart growth is ending it, or your smart growth is controlling it and being reasonable on how we do things, people want that. And that's not necessarily Republican, Democrat. That's something they'll have to wrestle with.
Let's get real for a second. Are you dumping money into marketing but barely seeing any results? Go Digital can help. Using their marketing matrix, they zero in on your target audience and engage them where it matters the most. Go Digital acts as your full-service marketing team, saving you the hassle and cost of building an entire in-house team or trusting random gurus you found on the internet. It is also important to note that they don't just serve home service businesses. They own one. They've been in your shoes. They know what works because they've lived it. Wondering why I know so much about them? It's because I've been a client for them over a year, and I couldn't be happier with the results. So if you're ready to start winning more leads for less, hit the link in the show notes and schedule a free 20-minute consultation today. Yeah, I think you hit on a kind of a hot topic with the smart growth concept, and for those of you who aren't watching, that smart growth in air quotes, because everybody's got their own interpretation of it.
Sure.
And one thing that the association would love to see is a roundtable conversation with these other organizations and work out a plan.
Yeah.
You know, developers aren't this greedy monster that just does land grabs. Developers are feeding a need in our market right now. You know, our market's right at 9,000 lots short for a 6-month demand. I mean, there's true need for your cookie cutter housing to your production, to your semi-production, even to your luxury custom. And you're seeing all of these markets thrive. But from an HBA standpoint, we would love just to get everybody in one room. We're not going to agree on everything, which is perfectly fine. But what we can agree on is we know that a change needs to happen. We know that growth is imperative to this market. It's the old saying, if you're not growing, you're dying.
Yeah.
But we want to help work and figure out, all right, where do you want us to go? Where do you want to see growth? You know, coming up with hot zones and targeting for these local municipalities to say, all right, from a sewer standpoint, from a power standpoint, from a water transmission standpoint, we're going this direction.
Well, you and I have discussed for years that, look, I understand the folks in Tigerville and Fork Shoals and whatnot who are angry about the development and you know, the 100-acre farm near them turns into a subdivision when they looked at a farm their whole life. I get it. Part of the problem with that is that county council and the planning commission are not approving subdivisions and high density, let's say 5 miles north and south of 85, or a few miles east and west of 385. So when you're not approving that, it gets pushed out further. There's a lot of issues there, and we don't have the infrastructure. Talk about the penny that I know you wanted to talk about a little bit later, but you know, there's road issues that we have to fix if you want to do the infill. Otherwise, that pressure continues out there, and those folks get angry. I remember vividly going back to my first part of my experience in politics around here was when I was at the Greenville News covering county council years ago. And a few years ago, I was at a council meeting, and I wasn't taking a position on some development. I can't remember which one it was, and everyone was there in their matching T-shirts, and they were fighting this development. And this, you know, I was talking to the representative from the realtors immediately afterward, and she overheard me say something. She said, "Well, the problem is that, you know, we just can't have any more of this development." I looked at the lady. I said, "Ma'am, when did you move here?" She's like, "I moved here in 2007." And I said, "Ma'am, I was at the Greenville News when that people were protesting your development."
Yep.
I don't know that for sure, but this has been going on for a long time. Everyone's protesting the new development because what is a established subdivision now out in Five Forks was a farm 20 years ago.
Yep.
And so this never changes. I mean, these folks are still angry about this stuff. And I think that anger has fueled the change on county council, just like I was talking about, it fueled the change in the federal. But I think we've got to come to, whether, again, smart growth in quotes on that, everyone has a different idea of what that means. And for them, smart growth is not. What you cannot dispute the facts on the ground, though, with housing. And that is housing prices are going up. A big reason why housing prices are going up is because there's not enough supply. When there's not enough supply and you have increasing demand because 30 people a day are moving to Greenville County, 30 people a week moving to Greenville. A lot of people moving to Greenville County.
Yep.
200-something thousand over the next 20 years. This is a big problem. These people have to live somewhere. You don't like the traffic, so you don't want to put the subdivision here, so they're going to put the subdivision in Duncan or in Powdersville. Those people now still have to drive here. It's not relieving what you think it's relieving.
Correct.
It's causing more problems and more stress on the infrastructure by people who are not paying taxes to fix the roads here. Comes back to the penny sales tax again. But you've got these issues. The facts on the ground are there's not enough housing. There has not been for 20 years. And we've got to figure out how to house these folks if we want to continue our growth. When I was at the chamber, I would go meet with folks in communities around the country, and I would sit here and complain about traffic. I would complain about, I live here too, I complain about the traffic. It takes me 2 cycles of a light, and I get furious now. It's like when I lived in Atlanta. You know,
Don't turn into a NIMBY,
it's
Jason.
2 cycles of a light. But no, look, you get angry. Everyone gets angry at traffic, right?
course.
All of a sudden, you're sitting there for multiple times. I understand it. But the fact is, these people are moving here, and when I would complain about some of those communities, like, we would love to have that problem. Our problem is we have a shrinking tax base because businesses are leaving and moving to South Carolina. Businesses are going somewhere else. People are leaving and moving. And so now we know that we have an aging population. We don't have enough workers. We can't recruit business here. I mean, that's the flip side of the coin.
Yep.
When we were getting angry about this stuff. So, long story short, the facts are we need more housing. We need transportation. We need other things too, but we need more housing. There is not enough. There has not been enough. And we have to figure out how we're going to house all the people that are moving here because they're coming here. BMW is building a massive battery plant. You're seeing these new economic development deals every week around here because people want to move here. People want to live here.
They know that the quality of life is strong, but they also know that the workforce is here because, as you just said, they're all moving here. You know, it's, for example, Project Blackbird, which I think's pretty close to getting inked. It's a Japanese manufacturer, and that's 700 jobs. And where they're looking at is not enough housing.
Yeah.
So it's difficult to have that conversation about we don't need more when all of the data and just the bare fact.
Builders, trades, realtors. If you're looking for a flooring partner you can trust, look no further. I'm here to tell you about All About Flooring. All About Flooring is a family-owned business with 3 generations of owners that know the flooring business inside and out. They work in residential and commercial projects for both new builds and remodels by providing high-quality customer service and installation for carpet, area rugs, hardwoods, laminate, luxury vinyl, and more. Y'all, they even provide professional carpet, tile, and upholstery cleaning. At All About Flooring, they're more than just a flooring provider. They're your partner in delivering top-tier results that your customers will absolutely love. You can find their website linked in the show notes or visit their 9,000 square foot showroom at 2111 North Pleasantburg Drive. Now, let's get back to the show.
Completely back it up.
Sure. And don't forget too, you know, in the upstate in general, we get way too focused on our county lines. There was a major auto manufacturer looking at Lawrence County in the last 6 months. If that had gone through, what would that have done to housing in Fork Shoals and in Fountain Inn? People aren't just going to live in Lawrence County and go work there. Look at BMW. They're pulling from all the entire upstate. Michelin's in Anderson and in Greenville pulls from the entire upstate. So this is not Greenville just needs to stop doing that. Well, if we stop doing it, Spartanburg and Anderson are going to keep doing it, and they're still going to want to live here.
Yep.
And so this doesn't stop. It really requires a broader, and really, I argued this when I was representing a lot of these chambers that we really need to take a much broader regional approach to a lot of this stuff.
Yep. So kind of looking at that approach, we know that we've got growth. We know that manufacturers are looking here. We know that Philo's work for bringing some of these larger corporations here, and GADC has done a absolutely phenomenal job with showcasing the upstate and truly what it has to offer. What are some of the things that you foresee from the home building standpoint that are going to be targeted pushes for next year?
So I think that at the county level, when you're looking at home building, I think, they were talking about countywide growth moratoriums. I don't think that's actually going to happen. But those kind of things are coming, and that kind of fight is going to be there. And it may be a ordinance by ordinance, this wording in this ordinance that we've got to pick up on and fight to change those 2 words, because we all know once in policy, 1 or 2 words changes everything.
Interpretation's key.
Boy, must and shall. Those are those are 2 really important things. I would broadly, we'll call them anti-growth folks, whether those are folks that on the right that don't want to do this, or folks on the left that have been established in groups around here that have, been around for a long time. You have, they'll combine forces and try to fight this stuff. And if you are pro-growth, if you're pro-housing, if you're pro a lot of these issues, you're going to have to work on how do we push back on this stuff and be vigilant about it, because it won't all be the UDO. It won't all be this massive thing that we see coming. It will be the 1.5 acres that gets dropped in one day into a committee that we notice and start panicking about and having to fight.
Yep.
And so, again, that's why the association is here. Keep on guard, keep an eye on these things, and make sure that again, go back to the beginning, make sure you're engaged, make sure you're checking the emails, make sure you're making the phone calls. I don't think it's going to, again, facts on the ground are different when you get elected. So I think that they will get to the ground and realize we've got these challenges. And that may change how we do things, how the home builders do things, but also how the anti-growth folks do things. And I think we'll see in broad strokes, it won't be as negative as perhaps some of the campaign rhetoric made it sound. But you got to be on guard because there is, whether you like it or not, there is a very large group of people that want to shut the door.
Yep. Well, we're here to kind of help control. I shouldn't use the word control. That does not put out the right connotation. We're here to help direct and guide housing policy in the Upstate. And that's basically what we greatly support or greatly thank you for the help on that with. I know our members appreciate it. But, as we start to wrap this up, looking ahead, we know that 200,000 people are coming here. If you had a glass ball, what would you say some of the keys are for the city, the county, the Upstate? What are some of the key milestones that we need to accomplish over the next 5 to 10 years?
So I think that those milestones are, there's 1,000 of them, right? I think this was a discussion I had with Chairman Tripp and other folks. I've had it with who we believe will be incoming Chairman Blount also, that I think that you have to look at, as we are growing, what we are witnessing now is a nice steady growth pattern, right?
Yep.
If you look at Nashville, you look at some of these it looked like that 30 years ago and then did this.
Yep.
The hockey stick is what we call it. Will it continue at 3% growth and it'll be perfectly, maybe. But fast-growing areas tend to do this.
Yep. See a dramatic spike.
Are we ready for the spike? And I would argue, we focus a lot on roads. It's not just roads. It's water. It's sewer. It's EMS. It's sheriff's office. It's that critical infrastructure all the way around. Do we have it? Are we prepared for it? Guess what? You got to pay for it.
Yep.
And so we don't like taxes. We don't like paying anymore. This will pay for a little bit, but when you match the growth with inflation, it doesn't keep up. We saw that when county council had to raise taxes. Even with that raise, it is well below the inflation rate from the last 20 years. And even with that 7 mils, it's 10 or 15 mils below population plus inflation, which is an accepted conservative metric for budget growth and for taxes. So I think we've got to be very mindful of where we are going. These folks are coming whether we like it or not. It's not just 200,000. Again, it's not 200,000 here. It's 300, 400, 500,000 when you bring in Anderson, Pickens, Lawrence, Spartanburg. This is going to be this community is going to look very different in 20 years. You're looking at being Mecklenburg County.
Yep.
If we get 250,000 more people, and that's without the hockey stick. That's the metric. I would say, and I don't know if there's a key milestone in my head on what we have to make sure we address. But when you're looking at roads, you're looking at sewer capacity, you're looking at water, you're looking at, and I think Green Water does a great job, so don't get me wrong with those things. But does the sheriff have enough deputies and enough cars? And these are basic things that you've got to look at that I think sometimes we get so focused on the road metric and the tax levels that we don't really look at, are we really doing what we need to serve the folks who are here already here, not only the ones that are coming.
Yep. Kind of taking care of the market, but also adding in opportunities for new people to come in.
Yeah.
Well, I love it. Well, Jason, this has been great. I'm super excited, and I appreciate you taking time
Thanks.
out of your day.
It was fun.
If y'all want to learn more, continue listening to the Think Big podcast or reach out to myself and look out for an upcoming event. But again, Jason with Bridge PSG.
Yeah, thank you.
We appreciate it. Thanks for listening to the Think Big podcast. If you can do me 2 big favors, if you can subscribe to the podcast to continue getting updates whenever new podcasts drop. And also, if you can scroll to the bottom of the page and just give this podcast a review. We want to continue pushing it out to more people, sharing what we're talking about, and educating more people in the building industry.
I would also like to say a huge thank you to two of our sponsors, All About Flooring and Go Digital. If you're interested in sponsoring the Think Big podcast for 2025, be sure to reach out to the HBA of Greenville today. Thanks.